Good afternoon. Welcome to this NCUA webinar, Your Mission into Action, Developing Financial Literacy and Saving Programs for Youth. My name is Ken Worthy. I'm the Financial Literacy and Outreach Analyst in the Office of Consumer Protection here at NCUA, and I will serve as your moderator for this afternoon's webinar. Before we get started, there are a few administrative announcements about today's webcast. First, please ensure the volume on your computer and on the webinar console is turned up so you can hear the webcast. Second, if prompted, please allow pop-ups from this website. Third, please set your screen resolution to 1024 by 768 or higher so that you can see the slides appropriately. If you have any trouble viewing a slide, resize the slide window by dragging the bottom right corner. Fourth, if you have a question, you may submit it at any time in the Ask a Question box in the left area of the console window. We will address these questions at the end of the webinar. And finally, this webinar in its entirety will be closed captioned and posted on our website as soon as possible. One other note, a green widget on the bottom of your console called Resources List is available to access today's slide, to download today's slide. The views and opinions expressed are those of the presenters and do not reflect the official views of or should be considered an endorsement by the National Credit Union Administration's Board of Directors, its management, or staff. In today's webinar, we will discuss strategies for developing or enhancing youth financial literacy programs, the research available on youth savings and financial literacy programs, as well as the methods for effective outreach to youth. Additionally, we will review the free financial literacy resources available through the organizations represented in today's panel for both credit unions and their members. At this time, we will introduce our speakers. We are grateful to have on our panel the same group of experts from last year's first annual Financial Literacy webinar. We have with us Louisa Quitman, Director of the Office of Financial Education at the U.S. Department of Treasury, Gigi Highland, Executive Director of the National Credit Union Foundation, and Katie Bryan, Communications Director for the Consumer Federation of America. I am also joined by Gail Laster, Director of NCUA's Office of Consumer Protection, and Morgan Rogers, Director of the Division of Consumer Affairs in NCUA's Office of Consumer Protection. In addition to our panelists this year, we are joined by two credit union representatives who will discuss how their credit unions have implemented effective financial literacy outreach strategies for youth. To begin, Office of Consumer Protection Director Gail Laster will start us off by outlining NCUA's role in financial literacy and the importance of youth financial literacy and its connection to the credit union mission.
Thank you, Ken, and a special thank you to our speakers for graciously agreeing to participate in today's webinar. And I'd also like to welcome all of you who are listening to the webinar. And we again have an excellent group of financial literacy experts with us here today who will share not only their knowledge of the financial literacy arena, but also provide some important tips and tools for implementing your credit union's youth financial literacy goals. Now, as you know, the term financial literacy is commonly used to describe the ability to make informed judgments and to take effective actions regarding a person's current and future management of money. Financial literacy often serves as the first step to building financial stability by helping a person to develop smart savings and spending habits. Also, it's important to distinguish between financial literacy as it relates to credit union officials and the financial literacy efforts of a credit union with regard to its members. Although the financial literacy of credit union officials is important, equally important is the ability of the credit union members to make sound financial decisions. Today's webinar will focus on how to implement your financial literacy mission as it relates to youth member awareness and education. I think it's also important to discuss NCUA's role in enhancing the financial literacy of consumers, including our youth. Under the Federal Credit Union Act, promoting financial literacy is a core credit union mission. A cornerstone to support this mission is through financial education. Providing financial education is not only a federal credit union mission, it also makes good business sense by increasing member loyalty, providing additional opportunities to grow your membership, and helping to position your credit union to serve generations to come. While credit unions serve the needs of their members and promote financial literacy within their communities, NCUA works to reinforce credit union efforts, raise consumer awareness, and increase access to credit union services. Promoting consumer protection and financial literacy is a top priority for NCUA and is one of the agency's 4 strategic goals for the years of 2014 through 2017. NCUA provides financial literacy resources and tools, fosters collaboration among stakeholders, supports the Financial Literacy and Education Commission, also known as FLEC, and builds partnerships with other government and nonprofit groups to promote and encourage financial literacy and capability, especially among our nation's youth. Now, earlier this year, NCUA, along with 4 other federal financial regulatory agencies, issued guidance to encourage federally insured depository institutions to offer youth savings programs to expand the financial capability of young people. The guidance also provides answers to frequently asked questions about establishing these programs. I encourage you to take a look at the guidance and the various supporting resources NCUA has available at mycreditunion.gov as well as at ncua.gov, and links to some of these new resources are on the screen. And now let's look further at why focusing on the financial capability of youth is very important. Not only is financial capability essential for economic progress and stability, it is also vital to the continued growth of credit unions. Today's youth are the future members, employees, and volunteers of credit unions. The efforts of the credit union industry puts into basic youth financial education are bound to pay dividends far into the industry's future. Building the financial capability of youth at an early age helps prepare them to make smart financial decisions as they mature, such as financial decisions about savings, dealing with student loans, beginning to save for retirement, and establishing credit. Starting financial literacy early may positively contribute to the long-term financial and educational prospects of youth. Through early education, youth may be able to avoid getting into debt, damaging their credit, or engaging in unnecessarily high-cost or predatory financial services. Now, a natural place for providing financial literacy to youth is in the classroom through schools and educators nationwide. Credit unions are currently a part of this effort by providing in-school financial literacy education. And research suggests that students who receive financial education in grades K through 12 achieve significantly higher savings and net worth later in life. Also, carefully implemented high school financial education requirements have been linked to improved credit scores and lowered the probability of delinquency in young adulthood for students in select states with financial education requirements. And later in this webinar, you will learn more about how credit unions are working with schools, and you will hear about some insights from recent research conducted by the U.S. Department of Treasury. And it's important to note that studies show in many underserved communities, parents learn about finances from their children. So youth financial education can also benefit adults. There are numerous opportunities for credit unions to deliver financial education or savings programs both in and outside of school. It is most important to provide this education when young people are making critical financial decisions, like opening a checking and savings account, researching student loans, or buying a car. By strengthening the financial capability of young people, you are investing in the future of your credit union, the communities you serve, and the greater economy. And now, to discuss some of the youth financial literacy resources available here at NCUA to help credit unions put their financial literacy mission into action, is Morgan Rogers, Director of OCP's Division of Consumer Affairs. Morgan will walk us through NCUA's consumer-focused website, mycreditunion.gov, where many of our important youth resources are housed. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you, Gail. I will now transition to a quick overview of NCUA's youth-focused financial literacy resources. On mycreditunion.gov, which is available in English and Spanish, consumers can learn about saving, borrowing, managing credit, and how to protect their money from frauds and scams. They can also receive updates on important consumer protection rules, get answers to questions they may have about credit unions, receive more information about what a credit union is and how they are different from other financial institutions, and much more. NCUA's financial adventure game, Hit the Road, provides a fun and interactive platform for teaching young people about the importance of saving and spending wisely. Hit the Road takes a student on a virtual road trip across the country, and they must learn how to save and spend their money wisely to complete challenges along the way. The Hit the Road learning experience, which is also available in Spanish, includes topics such as the value of saving and creating a budget, spending responsibly, and debt management. While young people and their families can play Hit the Road at home, the game is also a good interactive classroom resource for teaching about math and money. The game can add great value to partnerships with local schools, or add this game to your portfolio of services and share the game with your members. The link is on your screen now. Also on mycreditunion.gov, the Learn About Credit Unions tab is a great way to educate youth on how credit unions work. You can view a historical timeline of the credit union industry and learn about the differences between a bank and a credit union. Under the next tab, located on mycreditunion.gov, the Protect Your Finances tab, young people can learn about how to receive a free credit report each year, keep up to date on frauds and scams, receive the most recent consumer protection update from NCUA, and view money tips targeted specifically for young adults. The newly updated mycreditunion.gov Financial Tools and Resources tab is also a one-stop location for NCUA's financial literacy resources, including access to NCUA's educational videos, brochures, articles, and more. It also includes a financial literacy calendar of annual financial literacy events, topics, and opportunities for credit unions to promote and engage with throughout the year. Consider the section Your Financial Literacy Resource, where you can download graphics and brochures and find links to financial articles and other free federal resources. In addition to the financial literacy resources available on mycreditunion.gov, NCUA's financial literacy microsite, PocketSense, also has a number of valuable tools targeted towards specific demographics like youth. Designed in 2013, PocketSense covers a variety of topics for youth, teens, and tweens, young adults, parents and educators, families, seniors, and service members. The site provides customized content geared towards each demographic to help reinforce smarter financial decision-making skills. The youth section includes games for parents and other providers to teach children about money. The teen and tween section advises on how to start saving early. The young adult section includes information on mobile banking and the cost of education. The parents and educators section provides links to lesson plans, guidance on how to teach money lessons at home, and link to other financial literacy collaborators and federal partners. The senior section includes facts on reverse mortgages and information on how to combat scams targeting seniors. The marriage and family section includes online financial safety tips for families. And lastly, the service members section covers important topics such as the special protections provided under the Service Member Civil Relief Act and important links for veterans and their families. NCUA also produces educational videos available on our YouTube channel. Specifically, OCP has two different video series, the NCUA Consumer Report and Consumer Protection Update. The NCUA Consumer Report series is for consumers of all ages, providing information on a variety of topics such as how share insurance works, avoiding frauds and scams, and the importance of building financial stability. NCUA Consumer Protection Update is intended for the credit union staff, volunteers, and their member owners, and is more technical in nature. These videos cover topics such as new regulations and NCUA's guidance about preventing elder financial abuse, mortgage lending rules, and field of membership expansion opportunities. Some examples of how credit unions may use NCUA financial literacy resources to augment or develop new financial literacy outreach is to display a link or graphic of mycreditunion.gov on the credit union's homepage or on brochures, flyers, and in-branch displays. Also consider adding mycreditunion.gov, PocketSense, Hit the Road, and other NCUA products as part of your credit union's member education resources. We also encourage you to follow and retweet us at MyCUGov, our consumer Twitter feed. Ken, back to you.
Thank you, Morgan. A reminder, if you have questions for any of our panel, you may submit it at any time in the Ask a Question box in the left area of the council window. We will address these questions at the end of the webinar. We now welcome two guest speakers, Robin Romano, CEO of Marisol Federal Credit Union in Phoenix, Arizona, and Randy Penner, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer at Community Financial Credit Union in Plymouth, Michigan. Both credit unions will share their youth financial literacy initiatives and savings programs. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedules. Let's start with Robin at Marisol.
Hi. Marisol Federal Credit Union is in Phoenix, Arizona. We are a community development financial institution, so going out and teaching financial education classes is something that we do a lot of. For youth, we teach classes for individual development accounts for the Maricopa County Community College system. These are accounts where teens from ages 16 to 17 on up save money in order to go to the community college, and if they save a certain portion of amount money, that money is matched either 2-for-1 or 3-for-1. So it's a great incentive plan for young people to save. In order to participate in the program, they have to do a 6-hour financial education class, and Marisol teaches those classes. We start off by teaching some basics on how to budget, what budgeting means, how to save money, even as far as going in, saving your change. Then we go into basic banking, differences between checking accounts, savings accounts, a lot about actually the difference between a debit card and a credit card. I think everybody would be surprised how much youth do not understand what that difference is. We also go over how to read credit card disclosures, since many of them, as soon as they hit the age of 18, will be getting credit cards. And then we go into credit, why it's necessary, how to read a credit score, and so forth. So we also bring a giant check, because many young people do not actually know how to write a check. They've only used their debit card. For children that are in elementary school, we do have a product called Money Island that goes out. We've purchased it from another vendor, and we go into the schools that surround our credit union, which are low-income schools, and introduce it at grades 4 and 5. It's a game where a character called Stone Broke, similar to what NCUA seems to have here, has to find his way to not be stone broke. Anyways, it's a big hit with the 4th and 5th graders, and if everybody in the class finishes the game and gets to the end, we give them a big pizza party. And those are a couple of things that we're doing. We do have Kid Club accounts. We updated our website for our Kid Club accounts, and we actually created our own little superhero, Marisol, and had her created for us. And we do a campaign a couple of times a year to encourage our members to open kid accounts throughout the year.
Thank you so much, Robin, for sharing all the financial literacy work being done at your credit union. And now over to Randy.
Yeah, hi. As Ken mentioned, I'm with Community Financial Credit Union in Plymouth, Michigan, southeastern Michigan. We're a $600 million, 11-branch, about 60,000-member credit union. And we're promoting youth financial literacy primarily through our school credit union program. We currently operate about 41 student credit union branches inside our schools that are within our market area, primarily where we have our branches. Our first student credit union was opened in 1990, so we've certainly been doing it for quite a long time. And they were operated by our branch team members as well as parent volunteers. It's expanded to what it is today by recognizing that financial education for youth is really a core piece of our business. Our program includes classroom presentations such as budgeting, credit, savings, things such as reality fairs. And during 2014, we reached roughly about 20,000 students throughout the year. We also currently have 7 team members devoted full-time to our credit union program. Our goal really from a strategic perspective is to be in every school that wants to have us within our field of membership where we have branches. And since we've been doing this as long as we have, our contacts are made primarily through administrators, teachers, and parents. And the program has really expanded as teachers, principals, and families have moved. When they enter new school, often they share the benefits of the program and invite us to partner with them. When we approach new schools, we do find that sometimes there are resistance. They're busy people with many requirements on their time. They have a lot of time constraints, but we find as we've influenced, gained some influence through the administrators and especially parents, we have been able to get into new schools as we move on. We also partner with junior achievement programs, libraries, and community child care programs, as well as other community organizations to work with us on the program itself. The tracking results has been somewhat challenging for us to determine an ROI. We've opened roughly around 11,000 student credit union accounts over the years. Right now, about 7,000 of those remain with about $9 million in deposits. What we haven't been able to attract or to track effectively is the adult relationships this program creates, but we're working to try to get a more meaningful measurement on that. But right now, it hasn't really worked out that well that we can really do a definite ROI. We haven't solved this yet, but intuitively we believe that in the marketing effort we certainly has attracted more parents, educators, and certainly the impact in the community has been great for us. I guess the bottom line is, more importantly, we feel that we have an obligation and passion to create space for this important financial education in our schools, and we do what we can to increase the priority for financial literacy for our youth in our community.
Thank you so much, Randy, and thank you, Robin, for both of you for taking time out of your schedule to share your youth financial literacy programs with us. And now we welcome our next speaker, Louisa Quitman, Director of the Office of Financial Education at the Department of Treasury in the Office of Consumer Policy. As Gail indicated earlier, NCUA works closely with Treasury and FLEC on the ongoing efforts to improve financial capability in the United States. We are extremely happy to have Louisa with us here today to discuss federal financial literacy efforts and provide a follow-up to the research study involving an in-school credit union branch that Louisa first discussed on our webinar last year.
Great. Well, thank you for inviting me to join you today, and I hope you find this update useful. I'll talk a little bit about what we know about youth financial capability, what agencies across the government are doing to address the challenge of youth financial capability, and how credit unions can work with us and work with these different federal programs. First, let me talk a little bit about what we know about the financial knowledge of American youth. Based on the 2012 Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA, we found that U.S. students on average fared approximately as well as the international average, the OECD country average, comparable to students in countries such as France, Israel, Russia, and Spain. However, nearly 18% of U.S. students, or almost a fifth, did not attain financial literacy levels beyond the baseline level of proficiency in applying their financial knowledge in everyday situations like building a budget, comparing prices, and so forth. And particularly concerning is while 8.5% of white students scored below proficiency level 2, 37% of African American students and almost 27% of Hispanic students scored in this low level of proficiency. Interestingly, girls and boys performed nearly identically on average, contrary to maybe some of the findings that other people have noted. And immigrant students from non-U.S. born households actually did almost nearly as well as non-immigrant students. Another finding that the PISA points us to is that while just under a third of socioeconomically disadvantaged students held a bank or credit union account, 70% of the most socioeconomically advantaged students, those in the highest income quartile, had a bank or credit union account. And that disparity, a third versus 70%, was the largest across the countries surveyed. So we're going to talk a little bit more about youth accounts in a little bit, and maybe addressing that gap might be addressing that gap might help build financial capability. I'll talk a little bit more beyond the PISA study. Other research shows us that young people in our country are facing a lot of financial challenges. They're lagging in recovery from the financial crisis, and that these challenges may be impeding young people's participation in the economy, limiting entrepreneurship, home ownership, saving, and investing. Young people have more debt and fewer assets. They're still facing a challenging job picture. They're dealing with debt in many ways, concerned that they're not going to be able to pay off their student debt. and only a third of young people were found to have rainy day savings, and 40% have retirement savings. And it's clear on top of those trends that African American, Hispanic, and Native young people, women, and those from low-income families are facing even greater challenges. African Americans and Hispanics started out with less wealth and were harder hit by the recession. So we're particularly concerned with those populations. Yet there may be a way to change course, and maybe that giving young people opportunity to build savings in their childhood may help them not just build savings and financial knowledge, but also improve their ability to attain higher education and have a more financially secure future, as well as build strong financial habits. So both Gail and Ken mentioned the Financial Literacy and Education Commission. I'll talk a little bit more about what the commission does. The Financial Literacy and Education Commission, or the FLEC, is comprised of 22 federal agencies across the federal government led by the Department of the Treasury, including the National Credit Union Administration and other regulators. We have the mission of coordinating federal financial education activities and supporting the mymoney.gov website, which contains free financial education resources from across the government, from NCUA and many other federal agencies. The website also contains the FLEC Research and Data Clearinghouse, which provides research and data points from across the federal agencies on topics related to financial education. The FLEC also collaborates with partners outside of government, and in 2011 we released a national strategy for financial education called Promoting Financial Success in the United States, which set 4 goals: increasing the awareness of and access to effective financial education, determining and integrating core financial competencies, improving financial education and infrastructure, and identifying, enhancing, and sharing effective practices. And since 2012, the Commission has really focused on young Americans, in particular through an initiative we call Starting Early for Financial Success. Through this strategic focus, as we call it, on Starting Early for Financial Success, there's a number of outcomes and initiatives and projects that we've been working on. In the area of children and youth, we've worked in a number of areas. Recently, the Department of Health and Human Services released a toolkit called Integrating Financial Capability for social service organizations to either integrate financial capability, financial education into their own programs, or to partner with others in delivering those services. The FLEC also worked with agencies to release Building Financial Capability in Youth Employment Programs to address how to include financial capability, financial education, and access to transaction products in youth employment programs. And the Commission's also been working quite a bit on hands-on learning through school savings programs, which I'll talk more about in just a few minutes. The Commission's also very focused on helping young people understand their choices and make sound decisions on their path to higher education, post-secondary education, whether that's 2-year or 4-year programs. We released a document called College Savings and Financing Resources, which compiles resources from across the federal agencies. We worked on promoting the Financial Aid Toolkit put out by the Department of Education, which is really meant to be a guide to understanding financial aid for people and organizations who might not be experts on financial aid but want to make sure that their communities know about the financial aid resources available to students. We worked on an income-driven repayment pilot and also working with the Department of Education on testing student loan counseling. Let me just talk a minute about the student income-driven repayment pilot, because I know many of you are aware that many young people and not so young people are dealing with a lot of student debt. And so as part of the administration's effort to reach more student loan borrowers and inform them of their repayment options, the Departments of Treasury and Education worked together to implement a joint pilot program with Intuit, a tax provider, during the 2014 filing season. Users of the Intuit's TurboTax program were able to link to information on income-based repayment options through the Department of Education's repayment estimator website. And more than 100,000 individuals clicked through to learn more about federal student aid repayment options. We're continuing this project because we think it is important to make sure that Americans who have student debt know that there are repayment options out there to help them manage their debt and manage their household finances. Beyond children and youth and higher education decision-making, the FLEC Starting Early focus is also looking at young people starting their careers and helping them plan early for retirement. We're particularly looking at financial education in the workplace and looking at what we can do starting with our own federal employees, how we can make sure we're informed as federal employees about planning for retirement, and then use the findings there to share that with a broader set of employers. And the FLEC is also promoting and helping spread the word about Treasury's MyRA product, which is a new product to help people start to save for retirement. And finally, the FLEC is very focused on research and evaluation. As I mentioned, the mymoney.gov website has a research and data clearinghouse, which has all sorts of resources on all sorts of topics on financial education that anyone can use, whether you're a researcher or a practitioner or a credit union. As well, we worked with the Journal of Consumer Affairs, which just recently released an academic journal on starting early for financial success. To complement the work of the FLEC, the Commission, President Obama created a President's Advisory Council on Financial Capability for Young Americans. This is a council outside of government to advise the President and the Secretary of the Treasury on how to promote financial capability among young Americans and encourage the building of financial capability of young people at key stages in their lives. The council is primarily comprised of people from outside of the government, from the private sector, from the financial industry, state, local, and tribal government, from higher education, public education, and from the nonprofit community. The council is focusing on a number of areas, again, somewhat paralleling the FLEC, looking at early financial education for children in school and beyond, helping young people make smarter decisions about higher education, looking at how to leverage the role of innovation in technology in building the financial capability of young people, and also looking at the role of cities and communities in building financially empowered populations. As Ken mentioned, last year, Treasury released a report speaking about youth savings that really was intended to provide information and research on financial education and account access among elementary students. We called it the Assessing Financial Capabilities Outcome Pilot. The report sought to address a number of key research questions, and we believe that this was really the first study to look at both the combined outcomes of classroom financial education as well as financial access. So we wanted to find out whether students gain financial knowledge and understanding by participating in financial education in the classroom, whether they gain more knowledge when they also attended a school with a credit union or bank branch, whether they're more likely to open an account and make deposits if they're also participating in financial education, and whether students had more positive attitudes towards savings and financial institutions if they had access to a school branch of a financial institution. So what I wasn't able to share with you last year, for those of you who recall, are the findings from the study. Essentially what we did find large effects of education on students' financial knowledge, and that students with accounts showed stronger effects in terms of changes in their knowledge. We found pretty good effects and moderate effects, as the statisticians will tell us, on in-school account branches, on education and on attitude, so their confidence in their ability to save and manage financial accounts. Similarly, education and account access boosted account ownership, though we didn't find that having a branch in school necessarily led to more learning and more gains in knowledge. We also found, very importantly, that the effects persisted from year to year, from 4th grade into 5th grade among the students that we tested. We also think that this study, and I'll give you the link to the full study if you're interested, had a number of policy and practice implications. One, that classroom financial education certainly has an impact on student knowledge, but that teachers may need training, resources, and support in delivering that. Also, that in-school account access did have a positive effect on student attitudes about financial institutions and on owning an account. and that there was a real opportunity for financial institutions to work with schools, parents, and others to provide hands-on learning to supplement financial education. And certainly the model that Randy was talking about, I think, is very similar to the types of projects that we looked at in the study. So in order to build on this study and further support the availability of youth savings in school and beyond, as Gail mentioned, the Financial Literacy and Education Commission worked with members to release guidance to encourage financial institutions' youth savings programs and address frequently asked questions. I have a link here as well. I think you also have the link on the NCUA homepage. But essentially what this document is intended to do is provide answers to common questions that may arise as financial institutions are working with schools, nonprofit organizations, and other community stakeholders to offer savings and financial education programs. It reiterates existing agency customer identification program and other federal requirements and applies them to youth savings programs. For example, and this is just a couple of examples, the guidance talks about the fact that consumer protection laws and regulations apply to youth savings accounts and outlines customer identification program rules that would apply to youth savings program implemented by a third party such as a school. In these instances, for example, a school district can create a master savings account with sub-accounts to hold minor savings as long as those accounts have a restricted purpose, such as saving for higher education. Again, this document was intended to provide clarification and guidance and certainly to encourage financial institutions to explore these opportunities with school districts and other partners. Building on that, the Commission also released other resources for youth savings to provide tools to you, to school districts, and to other partners. One is called Hands-on Learning to Build Financial Habits, which is about federal resources to encourage school-based and youth savings programs. And another one is a summary of research from outside of the federal government, research and resources on child savings. So you might think of those documents as a package to really inform work in this area. And you'll see that they're all available on the Treasury website. I think they're also available on the NCUA website. And I'm also giving you some other links to some of the other information that I've been talking about. And then finally, I did want to talk with you a little bit about the CDFI Fund, the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, which is part of the Treasury Department, with a mission of increasing economic opportunity and promoting community development investments for underserved populations in distressed communities in the United States. And Robin mentioned that her organization is a CDFI, certified by the CDFI Fund, and I believe they've also received support from the CDFI Fund. The CDFI Fund provides support through financial assistance and technical assistance to expand services and build a capacity of CDFIs. They provide financial assistance awards up to $2 million to certified CDFIs and technical assistance grants up to $125,000 for a range of capacity building purposes. And I'll just leave you with the link for the CDFI Fund to learn more about those programs. I think with that, I'll stop there, and I'll be happy to take questions at the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Louisa. Another reminder to the audience, as Louisa mentioned, if you have a question, you may submit it at any time in the Ask a Question box in the left area of the Council window. We will address these questions at the end of today's webinar. We now transition to our next speaker, Gigi Highland. Gigi is the Executive Director of the National Credit Union Foundation and a former NCUA board member. As a board member, Gigi, among other things, led efforts to address credit union outreach to people of modest means and language barriers, to NCUA and Credit Union Consumer Resources. We are so happy to have Gigi back to provide some additional examples and resources for credit union youth financial literacy programs. Gigi?
Thank you so much, Ken, and I want to extend my thanks to my former colleagues at NCUA for inviting me to come home, as it were, to the Alexandria building. It's nice to be here again. So my goal today is to talk a little bit about the work of the National Credit Union Foundation and give an explanation of some of the insights from practice that the foundation has seen and that we've seen credit unions do. And obviously your two credit union representatives talked a little bit about that, and I'll try to expand upon that. So first, let me start with a little bit of foundation background. Some people don't know who the foundation is or what it does. The foundation was chartered as the Credit Union National Association's foundation in 1980, and we served essentially as a standard trade association foundation for our first decade. But in 1991, we were recognized as a true charitable foundation under the IRS code, so we were a 501c3, and we really focus on the needs of consumers and credit unions' very unique ability to meet those needs. Today, the foundation is still closely aligned with CUNA. We're widely recognized as the national charitable arm of America's credit union movement, and our mission is to be a catalyst to improve people's financial lives through credit unions. The foundation doesn't necessarily work directly with consumers, but working with credit unions and our colleagues at the state credit union foundations, we work to implement programs and develop programs and other resources for credit unions so that they can meet the needs of American consumers pretty much from cradle to grave. That said, it's always a lot of fun to come and to cite some of NCUA call report data, and I know the slide you have in front of you is fairly impossible to see, but it is meant to reflect essentially the vast amount of work that credit unions do in the financial education arena, especially in youth financial education and in a variety of other avenues, as you see reflected in the various columns there. One of the challenges, I think, and this is sort of a plea for credit unions that are listening in, is that as part of credit unions' mission, they understand and do credit union and financial literacy for a variety of different demographics, but they often don't talk about it. And so being able to collect data around what credit unions do and to whom they offer financial education is particularly important. And in this day and age, as both Gail and Louisa iterated, youth financial education is incredibly critical going forward and knowing what you're doing around youth financial education. So bottom line on this slide is sort of a plea to report your data to NCUA or to me or to anybody because we need to know what you're doing. So moving on to the next slide, I wanted to talk a little bit about youth savings in practice. And there are about 259 credit unions nationwide that actually self-report operating about 876 in-school and youth-centered based branches. And this is phenomenal in the context of not only what other financial institutions do or don't do, but the effect that it has on kids in school being able to really understand their finances and be able to manage money, if you will, and learn and succeed and also fail in a very safe environment so that they truly understand from an experiential standpoint how to manage their money. The National Youth Savings Challenge is actually hosted by CUNA and sponsored by Green Path Debt Solutions, and it's a challenge that takes place annually in April, and it's taking place this month as well. It's held in conjunction with National Credit Union Youth Week, which is this week. Last year, at least 95,000 young credit union members deposited about $20.5 million into their savings accounts during this national event. A lot of money during a short period of time. It included about over 8,000 new accounts being opened as a result of this really big push to get youth into savings products and accounts that they really understand what savings is all about and how they can build savings. So moving on to the next slide, and remember this is a sort of a 50,000-foot flyover of all of the things that are going on. I did want to mention the National Youth Involvement Board, and the website is there on the slide. It's nyib.org. And it's a volunteer organization whose mission is really to equip the credit union industry to reach youth. To that end, NYIB's website has a host of resources and a reporting database that credit unions can actually document their youth financial education presentations. And you'll see some stats there for 2013 and 2014. And there have been significant amount of students reached, over 300,000 students reached, and over 276 presenters actually reporting and presentations given, hugely impressive at over 10,000 for the 2013-14 season. So again, reporting is really critical to show the depth and breadth of what credit unions do, not only in the general financial education space, but particularly in the youth financial education space. So on the next slide, let me talk a little bit and switch gears a little bit to what the foundation does. And let's see. I'm sorry. You've got the right slide, Ken. My mistake. I'm moving on too fast. let me talk a little bit about some of the microsites that are available. Obviously, NCUA has a whole host of resources that can really help credit unions reach out to young members and offer financial education. About almost 300 credit unions nationwide offer one or more of CUNA's youth and young adult microsites that are listed there. And combined, these credit unions serve nearly 15 million members. There's also, key recognition for the work that credit unions do in the form of the Desjardins Youth and Adult Financial Education Awards Program that's offered through CUNA, and it really recognizes exemplary credit union, chapter, and state credit union trade association efforts to improve youth and adult personal finance knowledge and skills. And it's really interesting to take a look at the link that I provided for you there to take a look at what past winners have done and to show, again, the importance and underscore the importance of really telling your story and how critical that is in understanding the effect that you have in the financial education outreach that you might be doing to youth. Next was the slide that I was about to talk about when Ken corrected me, so let me go ahead to that one. So this is actually focusing in a little bit more on the foundation's work. In partnership with the public broadcasting system, the foundation hosts a program called BizKids, and it's a youth financial literacy initiative that really inspires kids to think about their future, empowers them to make smart financial decisions, and teaches them entrepreneurship as well. And it's, I guess, officially it's called edutainment, so that kids can actually look at the TV series, learn from their peers. It's taught by the same age group, so 9 to 16-year-old kids are teaching 9 to 16-year-old kids in each of the episodes, and it's backed by an incredibly robust, free, let me underscore that, free classroom curriculum that's actually mapped to each state's specific financial education criteria. It includes a variety of outreach activities for kids, again, ages 9 to 16. And for those of you that have heard me speak in the last year and a half or so, I've really been trying to emphasize the impact and what the foundation does with respect to outreach and the sheer quantity of what's being done. Since 2008, the BizKids series has actually reached over 65 million viewers internationally, not only through the Armed Services TV program, but we also initiated a program through Children's Miracle Network to have not only a box set of BizKids in every Children's Miracle Network hospital that credit unions support philanthropically, but also trying to get it on the closed-circuit TV so kids, their parents, can have an activity while a child is being treated that really focuses on the future, focuses on their finances, and hopefully empowers them to think about a bright future financially as they undergo treatment. So next slide, please. Another great area that we have found has had tremendous impact is the area of high school financial reality fairs. And high school financial reality fairs are essentially an experiential learning program that credit unions, state credit union trade associations, our partners at the state credit union foundations have utilized to help high school students have an interactive tool where they can really learn about budgeting, understanding their career choice and the impact that that has financially on their budget, and making decisions on essentially how they want to live. And so it's a hands-on experience where students typically will either identify their career choice or they go through a process to choose that, what the salaries are, and then complete a budget sheet that requires them to live within their monthly salary while paying for all the things that all of us have to pay for on a regular basis, such as housing, utilities, transportation, clothing, and food. And what I say about this experience, and I don't mean to sound cynical when I say it, but it gives kids really an opportunity to fail safely. And what's sort of fun from an evil standpoint here is that we encourage the volunteers that man and woman the booths at these financial reality fairs to upsell as much as they can. So high school students will go to particularly the transportation booth, and we will find volunteers really upselling kids on the big Suburban that has as many features as possible and that they have to pay, $700 a month for, and then at the end of the fair they realize that they've gone over budget and that maybe that form of transportation is not the best choice, and they probably need to buy a smart pass for the metro here in D.C. to actually get around to their job and get home. And a lot of fun to see them go through that realization again in a very safe environment that they can understand the impact without actually having to live that decision in real life. So great opportunity. One of the things we're doing at the foundation around reality fairs is to really expand reality fairs. So we're working very closely with practitioners in the field to find ways to make sure that any high school student that wants to can go through a credit union high school financial reality fair. It's time intensive, but a lot of different states have taken this up as something that's very important to them and in terms of outreach for their credit unions in their particular jurisdiction. So stay tuned. Certainly if you're interested in that, I'm happy to provide more information. Next slide, please, Ken. I think another area that's really interesting, and we talked a little bit about reality fairs. There are various versions of reality fairs out there. CUNA has a Mad City Money reality fair, and there are about over 400 credit unions using that. You can see the hashtag for that particular type of reality fair. And then, as I mentioned, there are a variety of practitioners in the field, including America's Credit Union Museum, Maine, Connecticut, Cornerstone, California, Nevada Credit Union Leagues, all have really strong reality fair programs. And just to give you an idea of impact, since 2010, 104,000, and that's a really conservative estimate, high school students have attended over 1,000 credit union financial reality fairs in all of those different states. So again, a lot of key impact. Next slide, please. And I think the last thought I want to really leave you with is that the discussion around youth financial capability is a key component of the credit union system's outreach and financial education work. But I think as Louisa and Gail both mentioned, it's also critical to the future of the credit union system because these are future members, these are future decision makers, these are future employees of credit unions who will continue to foster the idea that a credit union system is a viable option and a place to go for your finances and to manage your money. I think the credit union system is really eager, as I've seen it from the Foundation's perspective, to work not only with credit unions but also with policymakers like NCUA and Treasury and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to really talk about best practices around youth savings to assure that the generations certainly behind mine and behind ours collectively are very much financially capable. So with that, I leave you with a great quote from our favorite Ed in the world, Ed Feline. Keep purpose constant. I think that's no truer saying was had as it relates to financial education. So thank you again for including me, and I look forward to the audience's questions. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you so much, Gigi. Now we welcome back Katie Bryan, Communications Director with the Consumer Federation of America. Katie works on communications and strategic development for the America Saves initiative that encourages Americans to build wealth, not debt. Katie will be providing some tips on how to effectively reach young people with financial literacy messages and some recent research findings. Katie?
Thank you, Ken. Good afternoon, and thank you to NCUA for having me here today. I am the Communications Director for Consumer Federation of America and America Saves. CFA is an association of close to 300 nonprofit pro-consumer groups, and America Saves an initiative of CFA to motivate, encourage, and support low to moderate income households to save money, reduce debt, and build wealth. America Saves also coordinates America Saves Week, held the last week of February. The week is an annual opportunity for credit unions to encourage members to open or add to wealth-building accounts. I'm going to begin with some research from CFA and America Saves. Our personal savings index shows that between September of 2013 and September of 2014, interest in personal savings for those 18 to 34 years old fell from 77% to 68%, while the reported savings effort of these young adults declined from 66% to 57%. Reported savings effectiveness for this group was also lower, 60% a year ago, but only 47% this last year. We believe that a combination of low incomes and high debts may help explain the decline in personal savings interest and effort by young adults. All the data we've collected over the past year in our national survey suggests that those who are struggling financially have lower levels of personal savings interest and effort. Here are a few more stats. 50% of those aged 16 to 24 are unbanked or underbanked. This presents a vulnerable population that probably isn't saving enough, and even if they are saving, they may not be saving in a safe place. We also found 4 years ago in Chicago that summer workers were cashing checks, paying a fee, pocketing the cash, and saving none of it. Once we worked with employers in Chicago to offer direct deposit, summer workers were able to save $100 to $450 over the course of the summer, depending on hours worked and how much they were paid. And there are nearly 20 million youth who are working each summer, a population that we are very interested in working with. So what is the best way to encourage this population to save? Through a 2001 Harris poll, we know that 85% of employees use direct deposit, while only 21% use split pay to save into a savings account. These are the numbers for working adults and are probably lower for youth. We also know that saving automatically is one of the best ways to save, especially for emergencies. Every month, successful savers tell us that the best way to save is to use direct deposit into a savings account or to transfer money from checking to savings each month. So why do we allow youth to get paper paychecks? Why don't we start them off right from the start, training them to save the most effective way possible? Why should they make the mistakes that some of us have made? To bring this all together, research shows that it's most beneficial to encourage financial action during key moments. We've heard from youth that this past summer that they think the best time is 13 to 15 years of age, which is when they typically start earning money. They also said it didn't matter how much they earned, that saving at any amount was really important. These same workers told us they know it's important to save, they just don't know how. So in order to encourage and motivate young workers to save, we have created the America Saves for Young Workers program. The program fits into youth summer job orientation process and encourages employees to save a portion of their paycheck through direct deposit into a savings account. Each employment program works with local banks and credit unions who offer safe and affordable accounts for these young workers. The program takes under 10 minutes for young employees to complete and highlights the way that summer employees programs pay their employees and how they can put money away for both spending and saving. The program has proven to motivate most individuals to make a savings commitment and uses current infrastructure to authorize direct deposit and split pay or make automatic transfers between two accounts. The program provides young workers with the best financial lesson: make saving automatically. There are many job programs across the country, and the one piece that seems to be missing is this automatic saving piece. It's too much to ask youth to set up all of this on their own. We really need to make it simple and easy. We want to provide them with the same experience that adults can get. I'd like to walk you through the program, the Youth Complete Now. We developed a 4-minute video to motivate young workers to sign up for direct deposit and make a savings commitment. We found that this was a lot more effective than having these youth read through complicated text or have them attend a workshop. The video focuses on how easy it can be to save a portion of their paycheck automatically, how saving and spending is better than buying on credit, how the majority of wealthy people are blue-collar workers, and how they can begin saving immediately after the presentation. Next, youth make a pledge to save. It reads, "I pledge to save money, reduce debt, and build wealth over time. I will encourage my family and friends to do the same." This is a commitment they make to themselves and is not tied to an account. While completing the pledge, youth also have the opportunity to sign up for savings tips and reminders either through email and text message to help support this new savings habit. And the reason we include the pledge into the program is because studies show that those with a savings plan are twice as likely to spend less than they earn and save the difference, have sufficient emergency savings, be saving enough for retirement than those without a plan. We have found text messages to be more effective means of communicating with youth, as many of them do not open the emails we send. If you would like to see an example of how our texting program works, you can sign up for text message tips and reminders right now by texting SAVES, SAVES, to 30364. By doing so, you will receive texts for 1 month that will help you assess your current savings. At the end, you will be ready to choose a savings goal and take the pledge to save. Once you take the pledge, you will then receive text messages related to that specific savings goal. Now, we conducted a series of focus groups last summer to learn more about the spending and saving habits of youth. These focus groups revealed a lot about what these youth think about spending and saving and provide insights into how they think about personal finance. 2 sets of focus groups were held in 3 cities with a total of 55 youth aged 16 to 19 from Chicago, Miami, and Washington, D.C. They were asked questions about their thoughts, experiences, and behavior regarding saving, spending, and borrowing. In Chicago and D.C., youth employees lived in low-income census tracts or qualified for school free lunch programs. In Miami, youth were recruited from 2 high schools in low and moderate income neighborhoods. After careful review of the information, America Saves has compiled the top 10 insights about what these LMI youth think about saving money. Number 1, they know it's important to save, but they don't know how. These youth were repeatedly told by their parents, teachers, and others to save and reported that having savings provided security and independence. But they added that no one showed them specifically how to do it. They were not referring to financial education, but to mechanisms such as contributing a portion of their pay automatically to a savings account. 2, they know it's important to start early and that they can start with small savings. Participants indicated that starting at a young age, typically at the beginning of high school, because that's when many of them start working, would help reinforce good savings habits. They added that there was no minimum income needed to begin savings, with many participants citing every little bit helps. 3, while aware of savings best practices, many had difficulty actually saving money and or meeting their savings goal. Slightly more than half perceived that they were ineffective at saving money and meeting their savings goal over the summer. 4, they are familiar with direct deposit but do not view it as a savings tool. Participants were aware of the general advantages of direct deposit, convenient and quick access to their money. However, very few participants viewed and utilized direct deposit as a tool to increase savings, and only a small number of participants split a portion of their pay through direct deposit into a savings account. 5, the most successful savers had 2 accounts, one for spending and one for saving. When asked how successful they were in saving money over the summer on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the most successful, those that described themselves as 4 and 5s all had 2 accounts. They used direct deposit for their entire pay and had a portion contributed to a savings account. In most cases, their bank or credit union was the one who encouraged them to set up this split pay process and made it easy for them. 6, they have contradicting feelings about prepaid cards. They view not spending money stored on a prepaid card as a way of saving, yet they also view the card as a spending tool. 7, they understand that spending is about temptation, so they develop strategies to avoid this temptation, including avoiding stores and restaurants where they like to go, leaving their debit or payroll card with parents when they go out or hiding it in their room, withdrawing a set amount of cash to last 2 weeks until their next pay period and not spending any more than that. 8, they understand that living within their means and saving is the way to accumulate wealth. Despite their interest in purchasing expensive shoes and clothes, when asked to draw a picture of a successful saver, someone they knew or someone they imagined, these youth drew images of people who lived and dressed modestly because they were great savers. They did not draw people who lived in mansions or had fancy cars or lavish lifestyles. And 9, they feel proud earning money, and they demonstrated that in various ways. They would save a certain amount successfully. They checked their balances several times a day on their smartphone. Some would give a portion of their first pay, or in some cases every pay, to help meet household expenses, and many of them would buy gifts for family members or take the whole family out for a meal. And number 10, they don't like the idea of borrowing money. When asked if they borrow money, a clear majority indicated no and stated that borrowing puts them in a negative situation. They did not want to feel in somebody's debt or have someone remind them that they owed money. We use these findings to write content that will speak to youth. For example, everybody is telling you to save your money. We will show you how. In fact, we will help you set up the best way to save. We are encouraging all of our summer employees to save some of their pay, and we are going to show you how. We know it's hard to save, and we have partnered with America Saves to help you set up the same system the best savers use. Also, it's not just about getting paid. You can save. We will show you how. Are you thinking about what to buy with the money you make this summer? Will it be clothes, shoes, a new phone, saving for a car, maybe saving for emergencies or even college? We've partnered with America Saves to show you how you can save for the things you need and still have money to spend on the things you want. Now, here are some results from our program last summer. Through summer job programs in 13 cities across 9 states, over 4,000 youth set a savings goal and developed a plan to save through the Savers Pledge. In total, these youth pledged to save almost $3 million. The median chose to save $50 a month for 2 months, which was the typical length of the summer program. And over 50% chose to save for a consumer product. Think prom, clothes, phone, shoes. 17% for education, 14% for a car, and 8% for an emergency fund. And while 8% may seem low, we were really pleased to see emergency fund on here at all. This is not something that is typically on their radar. We are working with 10 cities this summer to motivate even more youth to set up split deposit and save part of their summer pay. So just some final thoughts. Youth know it's important to save, but they don't know how. So we need to show them. Provide them with a solution to save, products that encourage and help them save. Encourage small, regular savings. On average, our youth pledge to save just $50 a month. Encourage youth to take advantage of split pay and automatic savings features. And finally, incorporate language about saving for a goal. Popular goal from our youth savers included saving for a consumer product, education, a car, and even an emergency fund. You can learn more about America Saves at americasaves.org and America Saves Week at americasavesweek.org. Please feel free to reach out to me if you would like any more information about our America Saves for Young Workers program or for other opportunities to work with America Saves. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much, Katie. Very informative information. Our panelists will now answer questions from the audience. And if you have any questions, please submit them in the Ask a Question box in the left area of the council window. Let's go ahead and get started. We've got a question here about reality fairs. Gigi, perhaps that one can go to you. How do credit unions get involved with reality fairs? Is this a program we developed independently?
Thank you, Ken, for the question. So probably the best contact for getting involved in reality fairs would be to contact your local state credit union foundation. Most state credit union leagues have a sister state credit union foundation that engages in reality fairs and has that information. And if you go to the National Credit Union Foundation's website, which is ncuf.coop, on the top part of the website, you'll see a variety of different choices, and under resources, there's actually a pull-down box, and you can click on a nationwide map. You can pick the state you're in, and a contact for your state credit union foundation will pop up. So all of that contact information is right there. Again, as I mentioned in my presentation, you'll see some of the key states that do reality fairs, and I mentioned obviously Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, California, Nevada, and Texas are some of the ones that immediately come to mind. But if you need help, you're always more than welcome to email me as well, and my direct email is ghyland, Hyland, at ncuf.coop, and I'm happy to connect you with somebody in your state who can help you with reality fairs, and if you're interested in engaging in one and putting one on for your members or your local school system. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you very much, Gigi. We're getting a couple of questions in about IDA accounts or individual development accounts. And perhaps, Louisa, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what IDA accounts are and how they can be used, where credit unions can find more information.
Sure. So an IDA account is generally a match savings account for a goal. So in other words, a person who qualifies can open an account and save on a regular basis, a monthly basis typically, toward a designated amount to be used for a specific goal. Oftentimes there are goals like purchasing a home, down payment on a home, or attaining higher education, or opening or a small business expense. The best federal resource on IDAs is from the Department of Health and Human Services, which runs the Assets for Independence program. And they have an IDA resources website, which I believe is idaresources.hhs.gov. As well, the Department of Health and Human Services does have a funding opportunity, a grant program open for IDAs, what they call their Assets for Independence program. Certified low-income credit unions are eligible for funding under this program, as well as Treasury certified CDFIs or community development financial institutions. And we would encourage you to check out that website, acf.hhs.gov, or the IDA Resources website. And perhaps we can, in the webinar resources, those websites can be sent out as well.
Thank you, Louisa. We've got a question here for NCUA. Does our credit union need to register or sign up to be able to place your link on our website and use mycreditunion.gov as a resource? Morgan?
That's a great question. No, anyone is allowed to put any of our resources that are available on mycreditunion.gov on their websites. We encourage you to do that. We have a lot of resources and tools under the Financial Tools and Resources tab of mycreditunion.gov, as well as on ncua.gov. So we encourage you to do that. We also do a number of Twitter chats that talk about what you guys are doing in terms of financial literacy in the industry. And so we encourage you to go ahead and use our resources and then participate in the Twitter chat and tell us exactly how you've been implementing them and share those with the community.
Great. Thank you, Morgan. It looks like we had a couple of questions about sharing the links on credit union websites. As Morgan mentioned, you can feel free to share the links on your website. And Gigi, did you want to chime in on the IDA individual development account?
I did. Thanks, Ken. In addition to the federal resources that Louisa noted, the foundation actually has still on its website a toolkit that was about savings products for low-income households, and that toolkit lists a variety of different opportunities that credit unions can use to encourage savings for their members, and includes a discussion about IDAs. And what's interesting about the toolkit is that it gives particular credit unions that have implemented IDA programs and the challenges, successes, resources, employees needed to be able to do that. Again, the foundation has contact with a variety of different credit unions and state trade associations that are implementing IDAs. Montana comes to mind, and so does Iowa, as really leaders in this field, but there are a variety of credit unions that are listed in that toolkit that credit unions might want to take a look at to see how to implement an IDA program. Again, that's available under the foundation's website, ncuf.coop, under resources, and the pull down is under toolkits, and you'll find the toolkit I mentioned listed there. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you very much, Gigi. I'll ask this next question to the entire panel. It's a great question. At what grade in high school should financial education actually be taught? Locally, it's freshmen. However, our credit union finds that students forget about what they learn when they come in and apply for loans and set up a checking account as a 17 or 18-year-old. To the panel?
Well, this is Louisa. I'll start and point out that a lot of the research emerging is really indicating, as I think a few people have already said, that sooner is certainly better. Starting to build basic financial knowledge and financial habits early is certainly very valuable. The research project that we supported looked at provided financial education primarily to fourth graders, which seems like a pretty important age when kids are starting to be aware of their financial surroundings and maybe even be able to get an allowance and save a little bit on their own. That's not to say that's the only time. I think evidence is increasingly clear that really there's a real snowball effect with financial education. So you kind of increase the amount of financial education over time is a way to really build strong skills. So perhaps starting in fourth grade, starting in elementary school, and then sort of reiterating and adding over the years seems to be one of the most promising effects. That said, there's still a value in providing much more specific information on specific products, such as a car loan or something like that, when somebody's actually ready to use it. So it's hard to talk to fourth graders about car loans specifically, but you might give them some information on what a loan is and what kind of institutions offer them. Whereas you might talk to 17-year-olds much more specifically about how to read a car note, what the terms are, and all of that sort of thing.
Thank you, Thank you, Louisa.
Can I add to that, Ken?
Yes,
This is
absolutely. Gigi.
I think one of the other resources that our audience should be aware of is obviously the Jumpstart Coalition has a variety of national standards that they've put forward for different age groups between kindergarten and 18 years of age, and those standards would be really interesting for credit unions to look at, because I know credit unions that have programs that are very interactive for kindergartners through second grade that really focus on the differences between wants and needs. And the Jumpstart standards go through different age groups and help credit unions understand what should be expected of a kindergartner to know about financial matters and education matters, and maybe credit unions can gear their programs, depending on their interests, to those standards to be able to help kids, as Louisa said, really have a snowball effect so that kids really do start understanding the earlier, the better about financial matters, and that's incorporated into their learning. I think that's where we've seen, not only through research, more recent research, but really experientially, that kids really understand how to manage their finances the more information they get about it.
Yeah, and this is Katie with America States. I'll just add that I think, to reiterate, some of our youth wanted financial education, wanted to learn more about finances at that 13 to 15 age range, and I think that's because they had started earning money then. So I think it is important to build a foundation earlier, and as my colleagues have said, to reiterate that at these really important moments when they're earning money or they need a car loan.
Thank you all. We've got a great question here for NCUA. What age groups are Pocket Sense and Hit the Road targeted and appropriate for?
Thank you for the question, Ken. And indeed, with regard to Hit the Road, that is for grades 5. Sorry, you couldn't hear me, and I want to say thank you for the question. And with regard to Hit the Road, that game, NCUA game, is targeted for youth ages of 10 to 14 or grades 5th grade through 9th grade. And with regard to Pocket Sense, our microsite, that's actually for all ages. We have, as our slides indicated at the beginning of the presentation when Morgan was talking, we have targeted specific demographics, youth, teens and tweens, young adults, seniors, and we also focus on groups, different groups, and life events, such as the groups are parents and educators, and the life events are marriage and family, and another group we focus on in Pocket Sense is service members. So we do try to cover the variety of groups, demographic groups, life events, so that I think it's useful no matter what stage you are or how old you are. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Gail. We have a couple more questions here for NCUA. Morgan, maybe you can chime in on this one. Can these educational videos be placed on our credit union's website for use?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. You are welcome to put any of our links, including those videos, on your website. You can do it a couple different ways. We have a videos button on the top of the homepage at mycreditunion.gov. If you click that, it'll take you to our YouTube channel where you can actually take the link for that video and embed that on your website. You can also get to our videos through the Financial Tools and Resources tab on mycreditunion.gov, and again, that takes you to our YouTube channel where you can take that link and directly embed it in. And you're welcome to put those anywhere, show them in your lobby, put them on your website, do whatever you want to do.
And Morgan, on the same lines, we've got a question about Hit the Road. The Hit the Road game is available to be advertised to the public by any business or company, or is it advertised restricted to credit unions?
Anyone is allowed to use any of our resources. That includes Hit the Road. We have, as we showed earlier, we have that link on our website that you can embed, that we've provided for you that'll embed the game on your site. And then we also would suggest that you take the branding, the specific branding for the game, and use that as well. So we have a lot of nice logos and things that we've made just for that purpose.
Thank you, Morgan. Question to the entire panel. From each of your perspectives, what does the future of financial literacy look like? With technology changing and the way we receive information and consume information, are there any financial literacy innovations on the horizon?
This is Katie with America States. I'm happy to start. Just from what we're seeing, I indicated, we're used to normally reaching out to people through email, or, we used to reach out to people with paper newsletters, and that is gone. And while email is still effective, we've really found that reaching people with these text messages has been a really effective way of not only reaching them, but also interacting with them. So we can send people a poll, or we can ask people, hey, you said you were going to save this month. Did you make your deposit? Yes, no. And if they say no, we can follow up with, well, why don't you try cutting down this expense this month? So I think you're going to see a lot more of this where we can just interact a lot better, but also I think anything moving towards mobile where there's a product on a phone, credit unions will be able to, just be in the hands of consumers a lot more. So I think that's one way it's changing.
I think the other part, this is Gigi, the other part that's interesting about that is that the applications and essentially the use of mobile that Katie was talking about also has a human element to it, ironically, even though it may not be necessarily human on the other end who's responding, sending those reminders, because what the research has shown is that people truly still need the human interaction to be able to change their financial habits. It's me asking you, Ken, for your advice on something that makes the difference in my decision making. And so whether that comes through technology and mobile, or whether that is still an in-person experience at a credit union branch or over a telephone, is still critical to that change in a person's financial well-being and decision-making, because it really is all about the consumer being armed with information and also having advice from a trusted financial partner, or someone who is viewed as a trusted financial partner. Oftentimes that's a family member or a friend, and hopefully many times it's a credit union who can offer that advice. So it's really interesting that no matter how technologically advanced we get, it is still the human interaction that makes a difference in people's financial decision making, as evidenced by a variety of different research that's shown that. Thanks, Ken.
I would just add, I completely agree with both of those perspectives. I think they're both completely right. I would just add that I think increasingly the financial education field is realizing that financial education is probably most effectively delivered not just in sort of a special bucket or special place of financial education, but increasingly integrated with other places and services where people are, where they may be thinking about their money, where they may have time to think about their resources and plan for the future, whether that's in the workplace, whether that's in their housing, in their community, whether it's in school or in colleges. We're increasingly seeing partnerships between financial education providers and other types of institutions to really make sure that people are getting the information, the guidance that they need, whether it's face-to-face or over a phone, in the context of those really important financial decision-making opportunities.
Thank you all. We have a question here for you, Gigi. You mentioned grants in your presentation. Where would credit unions go to get more information on grants available in the community groups that they can partner with?
So the foundation is also a grant-making foundation, and there's more information on the foundation's website around grants. We're actually in the process of probably announcing a grant cycle that will open up sometime this summer. That's still being determined, but I think a lot of the grants that we are looking to give at the foundation probably are looking to be no less than $10,000 and to link to experiential learning regarding financial education, and that can include reality fairs, it can include in-school branches, it can include a variety of different things, but it is really meant to get to this idea of impact and also starting to really document and get an idea of the breadth and depth of work that credit unions do around financial education. And the grants that we have done in the past, we've done about $35 million worth of grants in the past 10 years. We've really seen that a variety of different efforts take a while to, if you will, to produce fruit, but when they do, they produce fruit big time. And I include in that high school financial reality fairs, non-prime, auto lending, in-school branches, a variety of different efforts that credit unions have undertaken that have made a difference in the lives of their consumers. So keep an eye open at the Foundation's website for the next grant cycle that will be available to fund credit unions' financial education efforts. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you very much, Gigi. Quick question over to, looks like, Katie, when is America Saves Week next year?
Sure. America Saves Week is February 22 through 27 of 2016. And we usually launch opportunities for sign-up and planning starting in September.
Okay, thank you, Katie. And another follow-up question to you. Are credit unions able to participate in the Youth Summer Worker Initiative?
Yeah, so all of our job sites across the nation that we're currently partnering with do like to partner with both banks and credit unions. Really, their main objective is to work with a financial institution that will offer safe accounts for these youth to both save into and an account for them to spend from. And I think credit unions make a really great partner for these programs. So if you are interested in working with any of the cities we're currently working with, like I said, just shoot me an email at kbryan, KBRYAN, @consumerfed.org, and I can see if there's a city near you that's participating.
And I just want to put in a plug because the foundation works very close. We're not all sitting here by ourselves, if you will. Louisa isn't a silo, nor am I, nor Katie. We work very collaboratively together on a variety of efforts, but the foundation actually gave a grant to CFA last year to enhance its program around youth internship and savings. So make sure you get involved. Having a trusted financial partner in the form of a credit union that a young employee can go to makes a huge difference in how they can save. So I'd encourage you to partner with CFA on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And a question to the entire panel. We are a state charter credit union in Puerto Rico. NCUA website in Spanish seems to be excellent for Spanish-speaking communities. Are similar Spanish websites available through government programs or any foundation?
Sure. AmericaSaves.org, we converted a lot of our information to Spanish just this past January. If you go to AmericaSaves.org and under the For Savers tab, the first tab up there, we have an In Espanol section. We also have our America Saves Pledge in Spanish, so savers are able to choose a goal, make a plan, and really make that commitment.
Thank you so much. Question for Morgan. Where do we access the logos for Hit the Road and Pocket Sense to use them on our website?
All of our graphics, brochures, logos, and things like that can be found on the Financial Literacy Tools and Resources tab on mycreditunion.gov. You can also find a lot of this stuff on ncua.gov as well.
And a question, maybe Gigi or Louisa, are there any grants available for credit unions that are not designated to serve the underserved to start up a branch in a school?
So this is Gigi from the foundation. The answer is yes. We don't only give grants to low-income designated credit unions. So, again, look for an announcement about the grant cycle that we have coming up this summer, and feel free to submit an application, or if you'd like to talk directly to me, you can certainly send me an email with the contact information that's after my presentation. Thanks.
All right. Thank you all to everyone for submitting your questions. We will now turn things back over to Director Gail Laster for some closing remarks. Gail?
Thank you, Ken. And again, thank you for our participants, particularly our credit union participants. We thought it'd be a really great idea to have some practical advice from both a federally insured and a federally chartered credit union who are doing very strong programs, and we really do appreciate them taking the time to participate with us this afternoon, I should say. And I want to thank again to all of our speakers and the audience who took time from your busy schedules to join us today. Indeed, all of you joined us last year, to all of you who joined us last year, and we appreciate you joining us again this year. And we plan to do this again because we've really had a good response, and we think it's you really can't know too much about financial literacy, and every tool is pretty much a very good tool to employ. So we plan to do this again. And on the screen is how you can get in contact with our office and the presenters featured on today's webinar. So please be sure to visit mycreditunion.gov, Pocket Sense, and Hit the Road. Also, feel free to provide NCUA with the youth financial literacy initiatives you are working on, and submit your financial literacy stories to us by sending an email with the subject line Financial Literacy Efforts to consumeraffairs@ncua.gov. Also on the screen now is a page on mycreditunion.gov where you will find a list of annual financial literacy events, themes, and opportunities for your considerations. We have made several updates for Financial Literacy Month, and you can see them on the screen now as well. And we think this is really important for you to have the calendar because we know that there's a lot of planning that goes into doing an event, and indeed we do have these reoccurring events each year, so we hope you will take advantage of the calendar and being able to plan your events around it. Ken?
Thank you very much, Gail. This concludes our webcast. Thank you to everyone for joining us. As mentioned earlier, in the near future, we will announce when the archive of today's webcast is available. Visit mycreditunion.gov for updates. Thank you and have a wonderful day.